Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us again. With me today is a very special guest, Audrey Semprun from the S&P. And S&P is the Strategic Networking Partners over in the Prescott Valley, Arizona area. I had the pleasure of being introduced to her there, and we got to know each other, and I think her story is amazing. And that's why I invited her on the cast. So she's an amazing woman, entrepreneurial spirit, tenfold, powerhouse. Audrey, thanks for being here today. Audrey, go ahead and just take a minute here just to introduce yourself.
Well, I'm the founder and publisher of Southwest Prescott. And what I'm doing is bring people together through a small town magazine that's actually got a very large national reach and part of a bigger picture. So I'm fueled by Best Version Media. And it's my job just to bring people together, and it's my joy. That's what I've done for many years in town. I've been in Prescott since 92, raised my family here. So independent publisher and magazine.
Awesome. Love that. So I'm going to open up with a personal question here that I ask everybody. What experiences or influences in your life has shaped your values as a business owner?
Seeing people and in different situations, it's really taught me an awful lot about, caring about people and how everybody has their own story. And so it's really beneficial for the community to be able to share their story because people tell me, "Oh, I don't really have anything to say." And I say, we all do. And so that shaped me an awful lot because that's what matters, is being able to have a story and to be able to share it. That's important to people to be heard.
I love that. And so sharing people's story is kind of your passion, and you
Right.
turned it into your project. What's been one of the best stories that you've come across in your time?
One that really touched me the most was one of my neighbors reached out to me and they said, "Hey, could you put these people in your magazine? I think that they would be a really interesting couple." And I said, "Of course I will." And I didn't need to know their story because everybody has a story. Everybody's interesting. I don't turn anybody away because why would I? But anyway, I reached out to this lady. It was just by email. And she reached back out to me and said, "I would be honored to be on your cover. That would be my legacy." And that was just, I had heard that before from my very second cover. He's a real estate guy. He'd been in business 40 years, and I knew he was an old guy and his wife. And, I brought him in not because of the aesthetics, but I brought him in just for the story. And it was so cool because he ordered, he knew that he was going to be what he wanted. He ordered like 20 copies or print on demand. When he got his magazine, all he could tell me was, "Audrey, this is our legacy." I was able to share it with my family. I told our story and it was so cool. But for this to come back at me again, I just know, that I am making a difference. And that's my biggest why is to have a positive impact in my community and doing good, you know. So I kind of just joined the Be Kind initiative accidentally, but it's just kind of coming together. And this guy's just going around saying everybody has a story, be kind because you don't know what they're going through. And he's got this race car. My logo is going to be on his race car. And I'm like, wow, I didn't ask for that.
That's awesome. I think there's something special about seeing your company or your picture on the cover in print, right? There's something special about that has been nostalgic, I think, for many generations. And I think it's similar to being on TV, where you have the ability to share your story, but to be public. And there's some pride. There's a lot of pride that's to be had with that. And that's also something that I strive for with this podcast, is to tell your story and other entrepreneurial stories that are not getting heard. And so I share your passion for telling the untold stories.
That's so cool. My most recent cover, the guy just, wow. That's what he said. And he does custom homes that are designer custom homes. And he's like, I wowed him because we were able to put him and his family on the cover and then, about his business. And it just really, really shined. So I'm getting really good feedback and I'll listen.
Awesome. Let me ask you another question. What does success look like to you, Audrey?
Having a positive impact, that is success. And garnering respect, that's really important to me because I run my whole business with cold calls. And so I run into a lot of, I hate to say it, but
Mm,
disrespect. And maneuvering those waters is difficult because when I started this business, I was a business owner, had been in town since 92. My husband moved his business from California here. I didn't tell anybody that I was a businesswoman. I just said I wanted to have a magazine and built it on my own chops just because I needed to be able to establish it and build that way. And so the respect is super, super treasured and valuable. So getting that positive feedback from the community is just, it's a treasure.
Let's unpack that a little bit more, because that's really interesting. And how much of the rejection that you've had to overcome, like what's been that motivation for you to keep going and making that next cold call or making that next introduction?
So many things that are already accomplished. I'm an independent book publisher, editor, author. I've written many novels. I mean, I've earned respect and I know what it is to be disrespected and I don't accept it. I try not to push back too hard. I did tell one lady
Mm,
that told me that she was a business owner and she didn't have time for me. And I told her, I says, well, I'm a business owner as well. And I thank you for your time. And then I hung up. And I put do not call. I do that in my phone on a regular, and that is really empowering to me because if somebody disrespects me, they don't get another shot
mm.
on purpose. I accidentally called a lady that was on my do not call list because it came up and it was already ringing. And so I hung up. Then she called me back and got another shot at me. It was just as rude as she was before. And I thought, you know what? I'm staying with that. That's a good program. I mean, I don't know how many do not calls I have in my phone. So well, that's how I protect myself. I don't have cold calls come back at me. I log every single phone call in my phone. It takes me a little bit longer to do my calls, but if somebody's not nice to me,
Mm.
they don't get another shot. That's all.
That's awesome. I love that. That self respect is key to what it is that you do. Your system is built around your personal self worth and your personal self respect, and that you don't let anybody, any prospect or any potential customer,
Right.
rob you of that self respect. And you don't give that power away. You keep that power with yourself. And I think that's awesome. I think that's awesome. A lot of times, with entrepreneurs, especially in the beginning, people get wrapped up in the identity of the business, and they feel like every customer or every prospect that rejects them is a rejection of them. And I love how your message is rooted in self-respect first.
I'm determined, to help people. And if they disrespect me, I'm not going to hold on to it. It does hurt. I do feel it. I'm not invincible, as far as, I do take the hits, but I don't internalize them to the point where they're going to paralyze me because I just step up and above. In fact, I've taken my business one step farther and I articulate right out loud. And if people don't like it, they can just move on because I tell them I only want to work with people who want to work with me because I'm working, I'm doing my job, and this is what your job looks like. And if you don't want to do your job, let's don't. So that's what I say. I don't know if it's doing me any good, but I'm noticing that kindness is coming back to me in scores. And I'm like, well, I'm not asking anything from anybody. I'm just giving. But the kindness is multiplying.
All right, let's switch gears here a little bit. Let me ask you a little bit about your origin story. What inspired you?
Actually, I was in between work and I wanted to do something different than what I had been doing. And Best Version Media actually contacted me because my creative resume matched a lot of their criteria as a publisher, a creative, an author. And then I researched the company and then I decided that, it would be a good fit. But before I made any solid decision, I called my daughter. I told her what I found, and she says, what do you know about them? And I says, they're number one on Glassdoor, and they're very reputable. And so she knew that I had done my homework, and I told her, I says, I get my own magazine. She says, well, it's a good fit. Go for it. And so I told my husband I was going to Milwaukee, and he's like, you do what? And I says, yeah, have my own magazine. So all the way to Milwaukee, I was trying to figure out how to get into this community because I not only researched the company, but once I knew, that I was in, I could do the magazine by myself. And so all the way to Milwaukee, I was trying to figure, I already made a prototype of what I wanted for my magazine, and I have had it consistent. And the reason is because I already built it before I ever started. I researched our community, and Hacienda had the highest mean income and the highest home value. And so when they offered me hacienda, I took whatever came with it. And that's why I can honestly tell people I got the pick of the litter. I'm rocking downtown with the cool kids. Come on. And so all the way to Milwaukee, I was like, how do I get in? Because Hacienda's gated. My whole community in downtown Prescott is gated hacienda, all the high end. And I know the home values and everything because I did my homework, 24 subdivisions at the time. But anyway, I got to Milwaukee and found out that I was junk mail. I'm like, holy cow. You mean when I get my sponsors, I'm in? And so then my task from there was, how do I stay in? And so what I did was I went arm in arm with businesses that didn't know I was a business owner, but I knew. And I brought in the heavy hitters as best as I could. I vetted everybody. I still do. And I landed with a very strong base. And I not only was accepted, but I hit it out of the ballpark. I got 3 more sponsors just by going to print. And so I'm rebuilding that base, but that's another whole avenue of what I've learned and gone through.
All right, let me ask you another question. What challenges did you face early?
That's a good question. I use that when I'm talking to people as far as my passion and my drive and my determination. And had this opportunity come to me through ZipRecruiter August 2019. But I knew that I had a grandbaby going to be born and I had a wedding in September. And so I arranged for me to go to Milwaukee in October because I wanted to hit the ground running. That's all, because that's how you have to do. And what I had, the task before me was monumental as far as I was concerned. It was something I had never done before. And when I found out the dynamics of it, I'm like, holy cow, what did I sign up for? Because I just wanted to publish a magazine. I didn't want all the sales parts that are intricately involved and very important. That wasn't what I signed up for. But I've learned, that that's what I've got. Overcoming, I went to Milwaukee in October on purpose. And then I was running. I hit the ground hard. And I had sponsors, and I went to Las Vegas for my first opportunity for a group convention. And I thought something might be up because everybody was masked up in March 2020. But in April, I knew why, because the whole country shut down for COVID. Quite a while to go to print because every single client from that very beginning, I had my little base, small base. And then I brought that magazine to print during a pandemic with the whole country shut down with cold calls. That's what I overcame to go to print. Yeah.
How old were if you don't mind, how old were you when this happened? When this happened?
I don't know. I'm 68. You got to do the math. I'm a words lady. Yeah, I wasn't young, but I was starting over. I've reinvented myself many, many times, and I'm not afraid to. So it was just me reinventing. And I was just a brand new startup. And first I had to get out of my coma because I was comatose with the rest of the company. But the company that I worked for was really, really helpful because what he did was he went alive immediately and had a round table and a teaching Zoom. And I attended that Zoom 3 times just so that I could acclimate to what he was saying, because what he did was they had 3 publishers that were doing their jobs remotely. He had a round table and he told the company, he says, we're going live now. And they're like, what? And he says, yeah, the whole company, we're going live. And so what we did was we changed our model immediately and took all the publishers with them. We went live doing our presentations remote. That's why I know how to do my job in front of people or remotely. I don't have a problem because I was acclimated with that. So that's how I overcame. And once I came out of the coma, it took me 2 weeks, even though they were paying us to make our phone calls. If we could log that we made certain amount of appointments, just setting the appointment, they paid us. And then when we did the appointment, even if we didn't make a sale, they paid us. And what they did was they gave us incentive just to be able to overcome what the whole country was dealing with. I couldn't tell you how many calls I had that they said, why are you calling me? And I would just change hats. And the reason I would change hats was because I'd been in the service industry for 30 years. so I could field all the different things because I took care of grandma, I took care of little kids, I took care of special needs, I took care, I was acclimated in the autistic world, in the deaf world, and that's how I want to build my magazine. Is in these different cultures, I want to bring them in, and that was when I made that prototype. That's why, I have the vision that I have is because I'm still just taking care of people. And that's how I overcame it because it wasn't about me, it was about who was on the other side of that phone and what they were dealing with. And so it was really therapeutic, and I kept a very good spreadsheet so that I could follow up with people. I'd ask them, "Can I call you back and see how you're doing?" Because people had trauma. They had a lot of things that they endured. And I got firsthand because they had nothing to do. They were just sitting around,
So
you
you,
know,
yeah, absolutely. So you tended to the person and
absolutely,
you
always.
person first, and then you help them with the business, right?
Always,
So
and that's what I do, except for, it's a learning curve, as a business person because you get out of that mode when you're out of that situation. And I was taught, just to get right to the presentation because it's not about building rapport and it's not about relationships. It's about, time management. And I'm not been very good at that. But I'm learning that if I begin the presentation without beginning the presentation, even though that's counterintuitive for me, it's been beneficial because if I start out a visit with somebody and I say, I don't even want to open my computer, what is it that you want to do? Do you want to scale your business? Do you want to market your business? Do you need advertising? And then it really gives me a step up because I'm speaking into their world. And that's one of the, critical things that I'm trying to implement because I try to always learn and grow because if we're not learning and growing and willing to change, then we're not going to have as much success because we'll be just limiting ourselves.
I love that. I love that answer. You have to meet people where they're at. And I think
Absolutely.
I think that's what you're saying here is you got to meet people exactly where they're at, and you got to tend to the person before you can tend to the business. And
Yeah.
being there as a real person and showing that you're a real person has helped you overcome those adversarial years in the face of market uncertainties. So but your book publishing business that you now own, you are that's still you had all the skills. You weren't a novice to work, but the publishing business itself didn't come to fruition until about 5 years ago, right at during COVID.
Right. But that was for my magazine. I've been an independent book publisher for years.
I guess what I'm trying to help encourage the audience with is that at 63, you launched
Right.
another business and using
Absolutely.
the skills that you've been collecting over decades of experience.
Right.
And that's, people think that, oh, well, I've already, I'm over 40. I can't start a business. I already lost my shot. And you are living proof that no, that's not true. You could start it at 63. I think, Colonel Sanders from Kentucky Fried Chicken. I think somebody correct me, but I think he was 65 when he finally landed and started making money at Kentucky Fried Chicken, selling it. So I think there's some encouragement there. Is that you're finding you're still growing as an entrepreneur, even past 60, and that's super encouraging.
Well, it's true, but a lot of people do that and people just negate it. And it's like, no, you can do what you want. I mean, I'm getting older, but I don't plan on ever growing old. You gotta enjoy your life, and we get one trip around the block, you may as well enjoy it.
I love that. So let me ask you this: if you could go back to day one of the magazine business, day one, would you do anything different than you previously have done it? Would you tell yourself to do this instead of that?
From day one, well, I did my homework and I had the skill set. So I did weigh it. If I could do differently during the course of the business, then I have a good answer for that. But as far as
Sure.
when I started, I'm okay with, the choices that I had made. I did my research. I mean, I didn't just jump in blind. I was very well, prepared. So doing it different as far as starting, I was pretty happy with what I did.
Awesome. Is there anything in the middle that you would have maybe not made a decision or made a
Oh,
different decision?
absolutely. I think the biggest thing that I would never do again is invest so heavily in the business. And that was my biggest error because I invested in the business. Well, and I did that by choice per month for 2 years. And the reason I did it was because as a new business owner, although I've been in business with my husband, I never ran a business. That wasn't anything I ever did. And so I always knew that you had to give to get back, and you had to keep reinvesting in the business when you were a startup. That's how you do it. That's what I'd always been taught, what I knew. But the lesson that I learned was twofold. One, I brought value because now as I sit here, I'm getting extreme positive feedback from the community, and value is multiplied. I mean, anybody that I see that knows me and knows my magazine, I get kudos. Danny, he's with Edward Jones. I sat down my magazine in front of him and said, Danny, I need support. I'm basically starting over. And he says, no, you're not. Young urban professional. He says, you got a firm foundation, Audrey. I love your magazine. And I said, dude, I ain't looking for kudos. I want sponsors. You're Edward Jones. Come on. And then I hear that. I just talked to a 75-year-old man and he said, oh, I get your magazine. I love your magazine. Yeah, but he says, you give me things that I want to read. You have useful content. And I'm like, no, I spent 3 years building this useful content because 4 extra pages meant that I could bring in more articles from the community, and then I wouldn't have paid out of pocket every month for 2 years to bring value that the people that were working beside me didn't see.
Mm,
Because I did that because people believed in me and believed in what I was doing when I had nothing. And I brought it all, everything I have to the table, and paid dearly financially for that. So I would do that differently. I would not have invested those 2 years financially because I could have brought what fit within the perimeters, which would have been a wise business choice had I sought any kind of counsel. They would have put the brakes on me right away. But I didn't own that until after the fact. And so now everybody's got me on the right road. And so now I only want to bring in people that want to work with me because I'm working and I'm doing my job, and I have been. I got nothing to apologize for. And I'm still taking care of people. And what I tell people, if somebody has something negative to say, you go ahead and say that. But then you weigh it against who I am and what I've brought to this community for all these years. I haven't changed my spots. I'm still that same lady.
love it. What I just heard is that the 2 years, the one biggest thing that you would do differently would be not to invest so much personal capital and resources into your business without the business paying you money, without
Right,
you getting
exactly.
paid from the business and
Yes,
being able to extract some value. Because
for
otherwise,
myself.
you're right. Yeah, for yourself. Because otherwise, what are you doing it for? Right. So
Right.
that was a big lesson that you learned, but you had to go through those 2 years of sacrifice to learn that lesson. I think that's huge. I think too many startup entrepreneurs have that mentality of you can't take from the business that you are investing in or too soon. And if your business doesn't pay you, your business is not a real business.
Right.
I have a couple of personal examples of those too, like personal stories where I started businesses, but I was just throwing money into it because I was building a product and I didn't have any customers. So I kept building a product without customers. I built a really cool product, but at the end of the day, I didn't have any customers. So it was just taking value from my family without giving
Right.
back.
Right.
So
Exactly.
that's a huge problem. It's a red flag. And a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in that trap for sure.
Well, and I didn't even know, but because I built so much value in what I was bringing to the table, and I just thought that that was going to pay in kind, but I didn't realize that the people that were working with me weren't really working with me, and they didn't see the value, and it didn't even matter because it didn't directly affect them. And so now I changed my approach completely. I'll ask anybody that I sit in front of, what are your expectations? I'm a branding company. It takes time, frequency, consistency. You got to be all in. And then the other thing is, what are you going to bring to the table? And that's why my tagline is throw me a dime, I'll make you shine. And that ain't on accident. And that ain't just a slogan. What I have to say is, if you don't throw me a dime, you're putting pennies in a wishing well and you're hoping, But if you throw me a dime, then we're producing because I'm coming to the table and I'm going to bring it.
Yep.
So
I love it.
no apologies there. I took my hits. I just thought that I could build it back a little bit faster. But then I see kindness coming back at me and I'm like, just hang in there, girlfriend. You've done all this. Just give it a break and just do it like that. Be kind. I'm going to put it right in the front of the magazine, and it's not going to be anything except for this beautiful race car that's got my logo. And I don't even care if you can see the logo. That ain't the point. The race car is the point. And then I've got another lady that lives in the community, and she's going to bounce off of that be kind. And so what's happening is I'm organically have a brand and building a community of kindness organically. And that's exactly what I tell people, when they advertise with me or sponsor, because the magazine comes to the people free by sponsors. And so anyway, people are bringing value because I learned my lesson and they're going to work with me. That's the rules. I only want to work with people that want to work with me because I'm working, I'm doing my job, and I never didn't do my job. I mean, I went through serious life adversities. I mean, when you asked me about, what I faced, I said COVID. Well, I forgot that I had my right shoulder completely and totally replaced. And I went to print in August 2020 when I had surgery in July 2022. And then I got my feeling back in 23. And then I had another surgery because I found out my arm was getting hurt by the pin. It just, but
I,
anyway.
I I love that overcoming story. Let me ask you another question. Who do you help? Let's talk a little bit about your print business and who is your ideal customer? Who do you help and what does your business do for them?
Well, the best help and fit is for the service industry because everybody has a home. It's homeowners and they all have a car, they have lawns, and they have all their internal workings. And so I help people that are, working with people. I mean, it's a broad spectrum, but that's what I help because I'm a community publication and we all have doctors, dentists, lawyers, realtors, mortgages. And the reason that I do what I do is to bring in the voices in the community and the education. And that's why I changed my business model as far as saying work with me because it's all nice and good if you have a specific area that you are, we have a place where you can have content marketing. And if you have a specific area of knowledge, but you're not sharing that knowledge and you just have a stagnant ad, maybe you should go be in the coupon book because I'm moving and I'm interacting with the community on very regular. Give me information because that's why I'm doing it.
Which community do you support?
I am exclusive to Downtown Prescott, Hacienda, Hazley, Hidden Valley Ranch, Los Pinos, Timber Ridge, the Villages, and Cathedral Pines. And when I say those, it's all the trees around circling downtown Prescott, off to the right. That's why I named it Southwest Prescott so people would have a general idea. We've got people that are helping large businesses be even larger. So small town, but very, very large reach.
So your publication supports the Southwest Prescott area to help local business owners get publicity to the neighborhoods, to the community, so that they have a platform in which they can get some publicity. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I do have a publication, but I also have a multi-channel reach, which is super, super cool. When I first started, I only had my magazine publication, but I've watched the company grow and now we have print and we have digital and we create the ad for the company. So we do a lot for the people. I am a marketing solution all in because we create the ad or we take a print ready and then we digitalize it and then we shoot out the ad. So it's all plug and play. And then we've got a landing page that we build for them for listings so that they can take care of all these things. They're so busy in the social media world and put it on one page so that you could actually go to your landing page and deal with Facebook, Yelp, Google, whatever platforms you want from one page. And then on the other side of the page is reviews. And so there's no reviews hiding. And so we're a very interactive branding company that's evolved into a marketing solution. And so it's pretty neat because we join a large marketing firm and we give them technical support and AI support. And so it's a whole package. So it's neat. So it's more than the 2,200 homes that I'm physically delivered to. It's reinforcing that brand. So that's why it's so important to have the brand recognition.
You provide a marketing solution for small business owners, most particularly in the Prescott area, Southwest Prescott area, but you still have a broader offering to bring to business in general in the United States and Canada, and yeah, through the digital platforms and help and such. So very powerful. Love that. We've been on the horn here for a little while now, but let's close with a good question here. What does your business look like in the future? Like, what are you building towards?
Well, going back to my prototype of my publication, I mean, my heart, I can't help it. I just want to help people. I don't know how to do other than, I've got the platform for the businesses to scale their own and what they want to do. And so I am helping them. I'm not using them, but working together as a team. And I would like to see a deaf corner in my publication. I would like to have Autism Speaks. I would like to have an education corner. And I would also like to have a senior corner. And that's speaking to the different facets of our community. And some of them are just not heard. They're invisible. And I want to bring that visibility and that respect and that camaraderie so that it's inclusive. I want to be inclusive. And for the business owners, I want them to build their businesses to their scale, to what they want, and have that avenue because it's so stellar. I mean, I have a whole, company behind me. So when you join me, you get the best version media team. So I'm not just bringing, my magazine, but if they want a magazine presence in like Utah, Phoenix, whatever, they can physically actually be in that community and they can build from wherever. So I want to bring quality and make a positive impact. That's what I see, being able to bring in those voices and to help those businesses grow while I'm doing it.
I love that. I love that. So it's very much legacy minded and helping community build community.
Absolutely.
And perfect. And last final thought for you. Do you have one piece of business nugget wisdom that you want to lay down for the future generation of entrepreneurs?
Just try.
Just
You're
try.
not going to get anywhere without giving it a shot. Trust yourself, trust your gut instinct, and just have faith in yourself and your ability to do what you see. Live out your vision.
I love it. There's no better ending than that. So, on that note, just try. Audrey, thank you so much for your time today and for doing this with us. And everybody, have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.